The Word of God, not my word, not my opinion, the Word of God is that we should give 10% of our first fruits to God. Jesus says to the religious leaders, yeah, keep doing it, but do it with the right heart. Do it out of love, do it out of compassion, do it out of mercy. Don't forget that part. Keep on doing it. That's pretty powerful. And it's pretty challenging. It's pretty challenging because in the church, somehow, some way, we have seeded the ground about talking about money. And for many people that have grown up in the church, our understanding has been that the preacher can only preach about money once a year in the fall during the stewardship campaign, right? And then everybody's like, okay, here we go. This is the yearly thing. It's kind of like, going and getting your teeth cleaned or some yearly thing, Here we go. But you know what? I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in a few minutes, but we've missed the boat as a church. We have seeded that ground, unfortunately, and I believe that has helped lead us into some unhealthy things and making some bad practices. Because some years ago, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody, some years ago, we uncoupled, we disconnected God and money because we were scared, and that's a fact. And I look at that and say, I wonder, is there a correlation between the fact that the church has became too scared to talk about money and the fact that more and more and more people are living in debt and slaves to MasterCard right here? I wonder if there's a correlation. That's my starting point. On the other hand, you have God talking a great deal about money. You have Jesus talking about money more than he talked about heaven. How many of you knew that? How many of you, seriously, did you know that? Most of you did, so there's a new piece of information. Jesus talked about money more than he did about heaven. But most of us want to say, oh, Jesus is a nice guy. Children and small animals follow him around. He was always walking around saying, love people, come join me in heaven. Well, he did say that to a degree, but he also talked about money a lot. Why? Because he knew that money was a source of trouble and pain and hurt and dissension. Jesus talked a lot about generosity. Two true stories. Up on the screen, I just got a couple of images to represent that. We heard one story. Oops, sorry, well, I got ahead of myself there. We heard one story on Sunday night, a true story about a couple, a young couple had a couple of kids, and they were working to get out of debt. And they said, as soon as we're out of debt, we're going to adopt a child. We want to adopt a child from another country. This is something we feel God has called us to do. One day, a couple from the church approached them. And they began to talk about things. They didn't know the couple very well. And they asked this young couple, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you get out of debt, when you pay all your debt off? The couple said, well, we have about $10,000 of debt. When we pay it off, we're going to adopt. The next day, this couple from the church came over to this young couple's house and wrote about a check for $10,000 and says, now you're out of debt, go adopt that baby. And then they found out as they looked at the date of the check, they remembered the date of the check. It changed their life. It transformed their lives. It was like, wow. Absolutely, positively changed their lives. They realized that the date on the check, like up there, 4/26, whatever, 08, the date on the check coincided exactly with the date that their baby was born in Malaysia. Think God was involved in that? Better believe it. This couple, though, generosity. The couple that came up and handed them a check for $10,000. That's just beyond belief. Generosity. Second story, true story, generosity. One time I had a church member come to me, found out that UMCOR, that's why I have this up here, UMCOR, United Methodist Committee on Relief. UMCOR was down in Louisiana after a hurricane, and UMCOR had said, wow, it'd be great if we had like a mobile command center, that we could go into these hurricanes and tornadoes and so forth. If we had a mobile command center, that we could go there and have phones and communication and a place for our workers to sleep. And so a member of my church came to me and said, Pastor, I heard about this. Would you pick me up at the airport? Because I'm going to drive my $200,000 motorhome down to Louisiana, give him the keys, give him the pink slip, and I need you to pick me up when I fly home. You in? Yeah, I'm in. Generosity. It's a true story. True story. I experienced it. When you hear stories of generosity like that, when you hear those about the couple that writes a $10,000 check and gives it away and transforms those people's lives, when you hear me tell you a story about somebody I know very well that just gave away his motorhome, does it make you wish you could do that? How many? Seriously. Does it make you say, I wish I could do that? I wish that I could do that. Imagine for a second giving a gift to someone else. Being so ridiculously generous that people look at it and say, that's just beyond belief that you did that. Imagine giving a gift and giving it and it absolutely, truthfully transforms somebody's life. Think about that young couple. They adopted that little baby. That young couple and their other kids, their life was changed forevermore. Plus, they connected it strongly to God. They didn't uncouple it. They connected it. Think about Encore, United Methodist Committee on Relief, and the people that were going, boy, I wish we had this. And this couple gave them the motorhome. Transformed lives, changed lives. Imagine doing that. But here's our reality for all of us. All of us, I'm not just preaching at you, I'm preaching to myself too. When we talk about being generous, when we talk about giving our money and giving things, there's a little voice in the back of our head that kind of represents a string, right? Come on now, this is where we are. We say, yeah, preacher, I'd like that. I would love to give away thousands of dollars if I had. Fair enough. I would love to be generous with my money if I was rich. We have this little conditional string in the back of our head that says, yes, I would love the thought of giving away more money. I would love to give away my possessions if I had everything I needed. If my children were being taken care of. If I knew that I would start. See the conditions, y'all with me? So that's where we have problems with generosity. And again, I'm not saying that if you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, and you're deep in debt, I'm not saying you have to give thousands of dollars, because for you it may be $10, right? That may be generosity for you. But the Word of God, not of Tom, the Word of God is that God calls us to be generous, and we like the concept. We do. We like the concept, but we struggle with it. Whether it's giving $10 or $100. Let me tell you something. We have some generous people in this church, and you know who you are. There are some people in this church that are sitting in your midst right now that are generous. All I have to do is ask. They're generous. We ran into a little disagreement about some things we wanted to, nothing major. We just had some things about money. And I appealed to just a small handful of people in the church. I said, you know what? If you were inclined to give a little bit extra, we can take care of this issue. Within 30 minutes, I had about $4,000 pledged to me privately. Tom, don't worry about it. I'll send you a check. That's generosity. Y'all with me? It's right here. And for some people, their generosity that I asked, it was $10. For some, it was $2,000.